Suzanne Barron here, founder of Christ the True Light. You can visit my website at www.christthetruelight.com and read better blogs, um, more in-depth studies. Right now, I'm just reading through scripture and giving you what I see. But there was something that I wanted to mention. I'll probably do that for this reason. In chapter 14, after I watched it, I saw it. It says the prophecy came in the year King Ahaz died. Do not rejoice, all you Philistines, that the rod that struck you is broken. What rod struck the Philistines? This is in chapter 14. I read this yesterday, 28 through 29. What rod struck the Philistines? The rod that I can see struck the Philistines would be in 1 Samuel chapter 4. It says that the rod that struck you from the root of that snake will bring up a viper. Its fruit will be darting, a venomous serpent. 1 Samuel 4, the rod that Moses had performed miracles, Moses and Aaron, but it was Christ. Christ is the one who performed the miracles. Christ is the hand that sent the flood. Christ, Mother Nature, right? Christ is in all life. Christ is the power of that rod that Moses had. The rod is broken. From the root of that snake, bring up a viper. Its fruit will be darting, venomous serpent. It's hard to say this because it's poetic. But the rods, okay, it's talking about rods. All right, this is why I can see this. I don't have my Wycliffe open. What broke the rod? The snake? That's what I see. That's what I see. Okay, so 1 Samuel 4, or 1, 1 Samuel 4. It says this. I'm going to read it to you, okay, because this is when the ark was captured. I'm going to read this to you. Now, the Philistines went up, the Israelites went out to fight against the Philistines. There's a war. The Israelites camped at Ebenezer and the Philistines at Aphek. The Philistines deployed their forces to meet Israel. So this is a war. And as the battle spread, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 of them on the battlefield. So they lost. All right. When the soldiers returned to camp, the elders of Israel asked, why did the Lord bring defeat on us today before the Philistines? So they blamed God. They blamed God for this loss. It's not what happened. Let us bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh, so that let us bring the ark, so that this box, so that he may go with us and save us from the hand of our enemies. This box. He was coffee box, but hey, box. Let him go before us. All right. So the people sent men to Shiloh, and they brought back the ark of the covenant of the Lord of the Almighty, who is enthroned between the two cherubs on top of that box. And Eli's two sons, I talk about Eli in chapter 3, his eyes had become dim. He was a Levite. Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were with the ark of the covenant of the Lord. They were Levites. Eli's two sons, Levites, because only the Levites could touch the ark. It was their job to tend to the ark. And because the Israelites are calling for their God too, I have a duty to bring their God to them. I am a Levite. They cannot touch it, but they're calling for the Lord. It is my duty as a Levite to bring the people their God. So they did. Their God, sitting on top of that box, the ark. The ark. When the ark of the Lord's covenant came into the camp, all Israel raised a great shout. The ground shook. You ever feel where you're sitting on the ground and you feel like a big truck come by? You can feel the vibrations in the ground. So they're like in a tented area, and the Philistines are way over here. They're so happy that this ark, this God, the one sit between the thrones, Christ, that bright, glorious light inside the holy temple, holy of holies, was on top of that box, that bright light. We're so happy that he was here. He may go before us. He was here, that they were excited and they went up into an uproar. They had just lost thousands of men, and they are having a party. Hearing the uproar, the Philistines asked, "What is all this shouting in the Hebrew camp? Why are they having a party?" When they learned that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp, pay attention. The Philistines were afraid. A god has come into the camp. They said, "Oh no." The Philistines, who just defeated the Israelites. "Oh no, nothing like this has ever happened before. We are doomed. A god has come into the camp. We are doomed. Who will deliver us from the hands of these mighty gods?" That box, that ark. They are the gods who struck the Egyptians with all kinds of plagues in the wilderness. Be strong, Philistines, be men, or you be subject to the Hebrews. Be men and fight. So the Philistines fought, and the Israelites were defeated. And every man fled into his tent. He ran. The slaughter was very great. He did not protect them, did he? Vulnerable God. He did not protect them. Vulnerable God, the lamb slain since the creation. These are verses, not the vulnerable God. It never says vulnerable God. I call it a vulnerable God. But it says the lamb slain from creation. That's in Revelation. Be strong. Okay. The slaughter was very great. Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured. A God has come into the camp so that he may go before us. He, a God, that box was captured. God was captured in this story. God was captured in this story. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, died. That same day, the Benjamites ran from the battle line and went to Shiloh with his clothes worn and dust on his head, and he arrived and he sat there with Eli. So he told Eli, it's a long story, okay, but he told Eli, your son has died. Hophni and Phinehas are dead. The ark has been captured. I'm skipping verses right now, but it gets to the point where it says, when she heard the news, this is verse 19. It says, when she heard the news that the ark had been captured, blah, blah, blah. Some lady had a baby. Okay, she said, the glory has departed from Israel. It's the last verse. I'm trying to, because I got to get to chapter 5. The glory has departed from Israelite, for the ark of God has been captured. The glory has been taken from the Israelites. The ark's captured. God was captured in the story. Now, what rod struck them? The rod of a plague. Because they had that ark, let my son go. Chapter 5. After the Philistines had captured the ark of the God, they took it in front of Ebenezer and Ashdod. Then they carried the ark into Dagon's temple, their God, and set it beside them. When the people of the Ashbots rode early in the morning, there was Dagon fallen on his face, and the ground before the ark of the Lord. So their idol, their fake metal god, was on the ground. Okay. And then it talks about when the people of Belshazzar. It says that his hand was heavy on him. I guess I'll just read the whole thing. But the following morning, when they rose, there fallen on his face. Okay, I read that. His head and his hands had been broken off, and they were laying on the threshold. Only his body remained. This is why, to this day, neither the priest nor Dagon nor any others who enter Dagon's temple at Ashdod step on the threshold. The Lord's hand was heavy on the people of Ashdod and its vicinity. He brought devastation on them and afflicted them with tumors. He sent a plague. This is the bubonic plague. You do your research, your secular history. My pastor told me not to look at outside sources, but you do your secular history. This plague was the bubonic plague that we learn about in school. But in school, they never mentioned God or an ark. This is the bubonic plague. When the people of Ashdod saw what would happen, they said, the ark of God of Israel must not stay here, because his hand is heavy on us. Let my son go. That ox. So they called together all of the rulers of the Philistines and asked, what shall we do with the ark of God? They answered, have the ark of the God of Israel moved to Gath. So basically, they move him for 7 months, okay? Let's go back to his place. Okay, so they called together all the rulers and they said, send the ark of God away. Let it go back to its own place, or he will kill us. So they moved around 7 months, and everywhere that ark went, the plague hit. Everywhere that ark went, the plague hit. There is a global problem in our world right now. Global problem, global plague. COVID-19 was sent by God. Artificial intelligence, humanoid robots. Asia is the powerhouse for those two. That's why China was hit first. It spread throughout Asia and then hit the rest of us. Okay, so let us send the ark back. For death has filled the city with panic. God's hand was very heavy on it. Those who did not die were afflicted with tumors, and the outcry of the city went to heaven. Now, when God sent Moses in, he told him to tell Pharaoh, I will send plagues. He did not have to tell the Philistines, he did not have to send anybody in to release that ark, because he lives in all breathing life. He heard them say that God sent the plagues. So they knew when the plague hit who sent it. He never had to send a human in. Then chapter 6, they answered, if you return the ark of God, do not send it back to him with a gift. By all means, send a guilt offering to him. Then you will be healed, and you will know why his hand was not lifted from us. What guilt offering should we send? 5 gold tumors, or to send some stuff, guilt offerings. Why do you harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh did, the Israelites of God? I'm trying to find the spot where they sent it back. They were too afraid to send it back themselves. I'm not going to read 5 chapters to find it. But I know this story well enough, okay, because it's a very important part of my mission. They were too afraid to actually take it back themselves. They got close enough, and then they kind of had a donkey pull it the rest of the way in. They were too afraid to return the ark themselves. But they returned the ark themselves because they knew God sent those plagues on their towns. And they did what they were supposed to do, return the ark. You are not listening to COVID-19. You're not listening. They listened and they obeyed and they sent it back. Stop AI. Stop robotics. That rod that Moses had, that powerful rod, struck the Philistines. This prophecy came back to Isaiah 15. Do not rejoice, all you Philistines, that the rod that struck you is broken. From the root of that snake will spring up a viper, venomous serpent.